What's going on, everybody? So, in this video will be part one of our interview with a former client of Pinnacle Credit Repair that was scammed. There will be a part two and possibly a part three, so definitely make sure y'all watch the whole video.
Name is David Stanley, part-time comedian, full-time Apache helicopter identified by. This is sponsored today by The Seeker and also Everything Credit. I have a special person I'm interviewing today. Actually, it's actually the first person that's had the courage and the fortitude to step up and speak out against a known scammer hiding in Vietnam under the label of the company Pinnacle Credit, who's changed it now to Pinnacle Credit Management, who had a very first company that started here in California. Many of his victims along the way from westward to eastern seaboard and in between. I have to say that at first, when I saw this person speak out on behalf of Andre, I thought in my mind, the fortitude of this person was very strong and convicted by what I had said in a rant, fair enough, call it what it may be, with facts, which is something that Andre can never prove. It was important to me to hear from someone what they experience and what they go through at a different level 10 years ago when Andre started this scam to now. So I'm going to introduce you to Edward, and Edward's going to introduce himself here shortly. First off, I want to mention the fact that Edward was verified and checked. We had a background check done him at our firm, and everything has come true to fruition of who he is and who he stands by. I understand his position. I have to address right off the bat too about not all good people put on uniforms, and that is based off of Edward's MOS that we will not mention, where he has seen all levels of it in theater, out of theater, his experiences that make him to be able to see through bullshit clearly when it happens and address it immediately. I have had senior NCOs and I've had officers above me make same mistakes as much as Edward has also. And I have to agree with him 1,000% that just because you put on a uniform doesn't make you a good guy. But the one thing that we have in common between Edward and I is that if you served and you're watching this, to the veterans out there have watched this and been contacted by Andre for business, we go by a code. It's honor, duty, and commitment. And I could be wrong. This Edward will correct me, but in the Army, if I remember correctly, it was loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. It actually spells out leadership. So that is what we're showing you here today as leadership from Edward. So I'll allow Edward to introduce himself really quick, and we have a line of questions that I think are going to be impactful for you if you're watching this, that are going to explain the process of what it takes someone to reach out to a credit agency and why. It all comes down to time. But Edward's going to share his experience, and I'm going to introduce you now to Edward. Edward, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name's Edward. My last name's Faye.
Uh,
Former, sorry, sir.
Go ahead.
Name's Edward Faye. Former client of Pinnacle Credit Repair. David Stanley did a wonderful job of introducing myself as well. To sum it up, I am here to speak out against scammer, a well-known one, Andre, and not hold back.
Excellent. Excellent, Edward. I have to ask the very simple question to start. This is, how did you come across finding Pinnacle Credit Repair? And before you answer that, I just want to know, because recently he made it clear, who we're talking about here at Pinnacle Credit, Andrew Nguyen, Andre Ross, Rose Nguyen, whatever the alias he's using of the week, that he doesn't advertise. Yet we've seen it plenty of times in the past that he posted on his community page. How did you come across Pinnacle Credit?
So a couple different ways. At first, it was an online search for fast credit repair, and one of the first pages that came up. Excuse me. And then I did a
That
little bit.
search engine? Sorry, but that search engine, if you go Google, Bing, how did you get to that point?
It was Google.
Okay. Good. I'm wondering, you said it was the first one that popped up. Did you consider any other companies at the time, like maybe like other ones that were out there on that list, or was it just because he was right at the top, he had the most kind of going on?
Sure did. He was actually the second company I ended up going with. I worked with another one who I'm not going to mention for just professional sakes, for about 3.5 months almost before I went over and started, before I hired Andre.
Oh, so then you absolutely, because that was even my next question. So you'd say you definitely did your homework, your due diligence, of trying to figure out what was going to be the most legit you could go with at the time.
Absolutely.
Excellent. What would you say from time of contacting him to getting ready to, let's say, sign one of his contracts? How long did it take before you actually had a conversation with him?
I don't remember exactly the minutes to the hours, and I'm not going to make a claim about that. I believe in fairness as well. It was very quick. It was within the same day from the initial inquiry to the first phone call and then paying him to signing up. It was within the day.
Okay, so within the day, let's say 24 hours of the time you decided finally you're going to go with him, you said payment. So you paid him up front, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because he made a claim that he doesn't take money up front. He takes money by the month. So you did pay up front.
Yes, sir. I paid upfront $600, and I'm more than happy to articulate the mode of payment if you'd like me to.
Would you? That would help out a lot, actually, for our
Yes, sir.
viewers.
Absolutely. It was via Zelle.
He took a payment via Zelle.
Yes, sir.
May I ask you, and you don't have to disclose this if you want to, it's your option. What was the total amount he took up front?
$600.
And what was the agreed upon amount he wanted to start this?
That was 1,500.
So 1,500 in essence to start, 600 first payment. Um,
And there
and
was no other payment after that. So we're on the same page. It was a flat one time $600 payment.
okay, I'll come back to that. Then, did he mention anything about referral pointing systems for his company to pay you back or get credit towards fixing your credit or anything like that?
Nothing to that capacity later on. Again, I don't remember the exact time frame, so I'm not going to make a claim on that. It was after he started working on my credit, he brought up a affiliate program where I could earn
Okay.
commissions.
I guess the thing I would ask is, you would you say you had somewhat of beyond a business relationship to a degree, maybe almost personal at some point? You built that with him of trust, maybe.
Yes.
Was he soft spoken, or was he just kind of out there wild, or was it sound like it was legit of someone who runs a business, a CEO type? How was your perspective of his character from talking to him on the phone?
At first, it was very professional, business oriented, nothing more, nothing less. As time went on, started going into the personal realm, and I was exposed to some of his, we'll say, unique intricacies, for a lack of a better term.
All right, so it's kind of like more like bro talk, right? Kind of shop talk, gym talk, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay. Um, I guess what would it be is a question in a sense. How did you feel, or what point brought up the conversation that Andre's like, hey, you know what? I got these guys. I'm being bullied, whatever. I'm being attacked. My company's being attacked. How would you feel about leaving a video testimony of the video I'm going to show you?
When he first asked me, I did have mixed feelings about it. I thought about it, and I decided to do it anyways. Um, at the time, I was very much under the belief that he was helping me and wanted to pay it forward, and so I
Fair,
did make the video.
fair enough. It's what a friend would do. It's what a friend would do for anybody. I understand that. Um, did you see, and what was the timeline of how long it took? But did you see any positive changes in your credit reports as you were reviewing this as the time went by?
So I did, and they did not last.
How many, let's say, things, just number wise, I don't want any of the details of each account. How many things came off?
You know what? Honestly, I don't know, and I do have a explanation for that. There was never a breakdown or report sent to me as far as results, so I'm not going to say how much because I just don't know.
So he wasn't giving you updates then at all of what he was doing or what he was taking off or what he was working on concurrently at that time?
No, sir. As a matter of fact, stuff that was removed came back
How long did it take before it came back on?
on within a day or two.
Wow. Did he explain anything to you about how he approaches his credit, like doing ACAT or AI or using any of those forms of service to try to assist you in getting your credit? I would have to say probably mediated.
Yes, there was. I wouldn't say at length discussions. It was very cryptic in nature. One of the more specific things he mentioned is communicating with the AI of, I imagine the bureaus or the creditors. He did not specify, but he mentioned communicating with the AI.
Now, at any point, were you doing your own credit remediation while consistently he was doing his too at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, did you find out, or would you think you know for a fact that your own credit mediation actually is what changed things for you versus what he was trying to do?
I don't know for 100%. What I highly speculate into a very confident degree that there was personal information that I disputed, which I got off, but I don't have physical, we'll say reports, if you will, of my own to furnish that it was me.
Now, with my personal experience being military and yours, I'd have to say our brothers and sisters in uniform, if we've lived a life and you know what I'm saying when I say this, cash loans till the next payday, right? LASR reports, we get a report back, we see how much we're getting. We got to go take a loan at 23, 25, 30% back, and we find ourselves this incredible debt, right? And majority of these, and I don't want to feed this into your mouth, but you tell me your experience of what you've seen. These brothers and sisters of ours, and even myself, found myself in a position coming home to a divorce, a changed world, depression, waiting for the next deployment, if not volunteering for the next deployment, and no home. I had to sleep in my car. Have you seen or experienced any of these situations yourself? Because I feel like a backwoods turnoffs here. Go to war, kick some ass, come back. There's nothing for you. Did you?
Yes, sir. I've actually slept in my car.
Well, I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that. Um,
Happens.
it's not an easy thing to do because as hardened warriors as we are and we're trained, and no one can say this unless they've experienced it. Um, Between me going through, my boot and SOI in the Corps, making my way to the Army, I do know the fundamentals of Army, what they associate with each other. I thought to myself, those lines are pretty thin. They're not far off. Like we go through hell to get our titles, right? And then we execute those titles in the theater of combat. Okay. So when we come back, we're looking for that breakdown. And guess what? No one's showing us how to work. There was no David Paynes of the war post, right? There was no David Paynes to say, hey, let me help you out. I got a military discount. I'm going to show you how to make your credit better. There was none of that, not even offered by the military, correct?
Correct. I mean, it's a great boot camp in. I mean, that's relative. Great. That's a different conversation. There's a boot camp in. There's no boot camp out. So these fundamental skills for civilian life are not something we're privy to when we get out.
Well, yeah, you have what? You have your on-ramping and off-ramping military. You have 30 days before you go out and 30 days when you get back. Like, where's that association? There is none. So
Right.
I have to say my hat's off to you because obviously you're in a home now, it looks like. So you've come a ways, which makes me happy. That's good. I think that's great. It's very empowering for those that are watching that are veterans too. Um, I guess the next question I have to ask you is, did you at any point think that this guy is full of shit and now I'm paying for this service? I think it's time to confront him on something I'm concerned about. Did that happen? And how long into your business personal talks did you confront that situation?
Great question. Don't remember an exact timeline. So the total duration of time that Andre and I worked together was roughly 6 months. A little bit shorter is June 30th of 2023 that signed on with them. I could prove that via the payment. And it was, I don't recall the exact date. I'd have to look through my records within the past 2.5 weeks that he and I ceased to associate. That being said, it was probably about 3 to 4 months in when I started kind of getting hairs on the back of my neck, if you will. Something wasn't a little soup sandwich, which is a term you're familiar with.
Right. Right.
Initially, I approached it with being friendly, cordial. Hey, you know what? It's a process. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. There's no reason to be accusatory out of the gate. As time went on, so did the excuses, the variations of it. If you'd like, I could name a few of them just to give you some context.
Yeah, absolutely. Name that. And then I would like to really hear how his reply was to you. Again, him being a CEO of his company, as he claims.
Sure. So, well, before I mention that, you mentioned CEO of his company. I don't remember how long ago, the day exactly. It is an audio message, and that's something that I'm more than happy to furnish. He said he doesn't own Pinnacle Credit Repair. It's nothing's on paper saying he owns it. And then, I mean, I know from being in business for myself, there are ways where you can shield yourself, be more or less anonymous, but still own your company.
Right.
For him to say he flat out doesn't own it and then make a statement afterwards implying that he did not sit right with me. But that being said, one of the excuses he made, which I found very fishy, as pun intended, when no removals were happening after a certain period of time, he'd end up saying, well, the creditors are like a fish. You've gone fishing, you hook a fish in the mouth and it's desperate, it shakes its head. It's like, that's what the creditor is doing. Just before you reel the big fish in and get that big win, they're going to fight harder. Pardon my French. I found that to be bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's almost telling when you're dealing with someone. It also can be scary because you do realize this person now has your funds in their pocket. Would you say that when you first confronted the situation with him out of concern, was it delicately or was it very much like an Army JSOC team kicking a door down and going to town? How would you say you approached the situation with him?
So at first it was delicately, and his response was in kind. As time went on, that escalated. It was about 2.5 weeks ago. To take one out of your playbook, it was like JSOC kicking down your.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that to be true because there's only so much BS we can take. I get it. I wondered and I think to myself on the personal level, and I gotta ask, and it's hard for me because we've been trailing Andre for almost a year now, right? And the way it happened was is that I had clients that came in to a firm I'm now part of, and these complaints were coming through. And as I was telling Dave this when I was talking to him, I had this video I had of Mikey doing a takedown. Like Mikey was done, we got him down, and then all of a sudden Andre responds to this with no way. And I said, yeah, way, bro. In fact, you're part of it. And I went back. He kept calling me Dan, not even David. Like when he's emailing back or leaving his messages to YouTube actually, to be exact. And he does a response video where he's walking around with his shirt off with his, I hate to say it, let's just be honest, it doesn't even look like a bi-mature male. Look at a 13-year-old kid walking around with an attitude, drinking green stuff, saying he has no clients in San Diego. He has no clients in California, but yet he was operating on an 858 number, which is San Diego. So I knew right there it was an issue I was dealing with him. And me saying that and painting that picture for you, did you ever experience that in personal conversations with him when he would say something you're like, that doesn't make sense, or just whatever, I'm going to shine this on? Did you ever have those conversations like that with him?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've heard things from him where he's even claimed to have children across the world, kind of and this is coming from me. This is nothing that he said. This is me interpreting it as such. It's almost like if he's embodying what Genghis Khan did, of just breeding around the world, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like the question is like me. I saw that too. I saw when he actually is in immolated that in a video, and I thought to myself, I would never trust this guy around my daughter ever.
Yeah. And then there's other times where he's claimed that he doesn't have any children. There's just little things. I'd imagine it's the. I mean, there's proof of it. We all know the drug use. I could imagine that altered his frame of mind a little bit. Maybe
Right.
some excited delirium. Who knows?
Well, it's like the thing too. I mean, in Vietnam, it's crazy to think that someone will admit and knowingly use drugs, knowing that that's the same as it. He says it's a death sentence.
It's not. I checked.
It's not a death sentence. Like it's for trafficking purposes. He'd serve like 2 to 7 years max and something like that, extreme. And life, yes, if you're a distributor at a high level, right? It's no different. Last night he's talking about the bar and saying that his mentor, which that's another video, is disbarred for his age. That's age discrimination. You can't be disbarred from your age from being an attorney. It's just these things he says. I'm thinking, how could someone honestly trust it? So I look back too, just like you did on the internet and looking at the advertisement. It seems to me he kind of had the marketing down pretty good. It would catch my eye too. But then to realize that he didn't create it, it was paid for, is like, what's really going on here? Is this guy writing his own reviews, doing all these little things? It starts to really get someone, and you don't know this probably, but like selling money to somebody, a credit repair agent, that's against the law right there for them to take it. Not that you sent it, the fact that they took it, But in the services of the contract, let me ask you this. The contract that you signed and shared with us, how did you feel that contract? So the last question I think we talked about you was, how did you feel about the contract that you received from Pinnacle Credit Management or Pinnacle Credit Repair that you signed, and what was the address on that actual form?
So I did not feel good about it. It's almost like an attorney didn't write it. It was very much seemed like it was handwritten. Address was not accurate, is not an accurate representation of any of the multiple addresses that Andre has for his alleged business. Moreover, something I became privy to was when I read through it, especially after he decided to part ways, because I did my own disputes. That was kind of where the rubber meets the road. It said in the contract that I am able to do my own disputes. I could reach out to the bureaus. I could reach out to the creditors. So the fact that he said the contract was void off of that is, again, part of my French, complete and utter bullshit. Just him being a liar.
That seems actually unheard of. I mean, I'm not, again, my forte of what I do now is not even close in the realm of credit. I do know about the bankruptcies and stuff, how to work through those things, the legalities and whatnot. It's not my forte, but it seems like to me that anybody that's mediating your credit is telling you that you have the right to do this too in a contract. Well, what's the whole point then of what you're doing, right? It makes no sense to me at all. Yeah, so
All right, so I hope you all enjoyed the video. This is nothing compared to some of the other information that we have. So if you have been scammed by this person, please reach out to us. Don't be scared. A lot of the people that reach out to us, they are scared because Andre threatens them, because that's what he does. But reach out to us. We want to help and do everything we can for you to possibly get you a refund. If y'all have any questions, leave them in the comments. Hope y'all have a great night.